Look, Dre, thank you so much for joining me today on Trusted Access. Really grateful to have you, and I know like everyone that would be listening as well, be really grateful to have you on as well, and to share some of your knowledge and your experience. Look, we've worked together. We pretty much started like a similar time,
Yeah.
and when we started, I feel like we immediately clicked. Like when we first met as well, and we were just chatting about like you just came back from Singapore, and you said it was a great trip, and I was like, look, I'm just happy to be here. So like since I've known you, we've always like gone along, which has
We
been
got
awesome.
along better before you started beating me at chess.
Yeah,
I liked you more. I
that
liked you
was
more
that was a
before.
better time. Yeah,
I liked
now.
you more before you started beating me at chess. Now, yeah, I've got mixed feelings.
Yeah, no,
But I agree. I agree.
yeah,
I
yeah,
enjoy working with you a lot.
yeah. But yeah, look, I think we're even now, right, on chess.
Yeah, but I think it's being you're being nice. I don't feel like we're
Like
nah,
I
nah.
lost to Alex as well because we're trying to start. 'Cause, yeah, obviously you're familiar with the chess club. We're trying to start as well. So I lost to Alex yesterday. She's gotten much better as well.
Which boggles my mind because the first game that I saw you play her, it felt like it was the first time she was playing.
Yeah,
It was like an immediate knockout.
yeah.
And then I heard that you beat her. I'm
I
like,
got distracted. I honestly, my head was not. I blundered a queen. I blundered a queen.
I don't want to
Embarrassing.
hear no excuses. But yeah, I
Back
got
cool.
scared. I was like, oh, this will hopefully be like a non-stressful game
Yeah.
for me because I don't have fun playing it.
No.
I don't. It's it's very stressful. So
That's what I want to hear. So that's a
yeah,
good thing.
yeah, yeah.
But Dre, whenever I meet you in the office as well, your personality really comes across really strongly. And I feel like that's a big component of your brand as well. Your personality.
Ah,
You
thanks, man.
you always come across to everyone in the office the same way, which is really important and really good as well. And I think you have like crazy cool experience as well. I think your journey into how you got here is really interesting. So look, I mean, I know heaps about you, but do you want to introduce yourself to everyone as well?
Sure. My name is Dre. I was born in Brazil. I moved to New Zealand when I was 13. Stayed in New Zealand for 20 years. We have worked across a range of sectors from starting out in as a recruitment consultant by accident. Can explain how that happened. Pivoted to running my own business with a friend of mine, and then eventually got into a few different sales roles. And over the last 5 years, I've been in the tech sales space. Most recently with Cloudflare, sort of hyper focusing on the AppSec side of things.
For sure. And I think your story is pretty unique as well. I don't know a lot of guys that sort of jumping around from different industries and different businesses as well.
I'd agree with that. I think that out of all the friends that I have in my circle, I don't know a lot of people that followed the path that I did, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
But it is. I agree. It's a unique journey.
And I think that is where a lot of your valuable experience really comes into play. Like I think when we spoke like a couple weeks ago, and you told me around how you approach running your patch, it sounds like the way you talk about it is really unique. I think you have a really unique take on in terms of how you organize yourself, how you view it, your perspective on it. So like one of the key takeaways that we spoke about was running your own patch like it's your own business. So do you want to just like discuss a little bit around like what that means to you, and where do you feel like the value you're able to get that value?
Sure, I'll do my best to
Yeah.
explain concisely, and if you need to nudge me to
Yeah. The gold.
help
Yeah, I
me,
will. Yeah.
because it comes from the experience of actually running your own business. I've never had a role, even back when I started in recruitment. I never thought I'd be in sales. I studied marketing and advertising.
Right.
I applied for a marketing role. I went to interview for the role, didn't even know what a recruitment agency was, and found out that I wasn't interviewing for a company. They were just like, oh, we have a client, da da da. And then I understood that there was a middleman. In that interview, they offered me a job. They were
Right.
like, have you considered recruitment, blah. So kind of fell into it. From that first role in sales, every boss that I've had in a sales role has told me, hey, you run this like it's your own business. You've got a commission based. We're going to give you freedom as long as you're hitting the right inputs, but it's your own business. It's your own business. It wasn't until I tried to run my own business that I understood the difference between sort of the sales mentality of it being your own business and what actually running your business means.
Right.
The main difference being so many things fall through the gaps in a lot of sales processes that I see because there's so much going on and priorities are constantly changing. Deals come through, deals fall over, and there's a lot happening. I find that without a really good system, reps tend to focus or have a narrow focus on everything that needs to get done. In the business that I was running, by the way, was a direct to consumer fish delivery business.
Right.
So very random. Again, colleague of mine was living in Boston. He moved back to New Zealand and he was like, dude, it's a country of 2 islands. It's
Right.
so hard to get fresh fish. Everything in America is like farm to table. There's all the stuff. So like, oh, let's do this dock to door thing.
Yeah.
But ruthlessly inexperienced, man.
Right.
Neither of us knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
And yet, like getting a business off the floor is hard. And the discipline in the level of organization that you need to have in order to do it successfully is so high that it very quickly highlighted lots of gaps that I had. Like I think we were having a chat about this before. I
Yeah.
used to be a pen and paper guy, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, if I need to do something, I'll just write it down here. And then I've got post-its sitting over here. I've got like a pad that I
Yeah.
use over there. I've got like notes on my phone. And up to a level of scale of the business that was fine. But very quickly, I was having conversations with my business partner, and he'd be like, "Oh, did this happen?" I'd be like,
Yeah.
"It was on a post-it in a different room."
Yeah.
So this is just one example of systems that I had to develop in the background to make sure that nothing fell through the cracks. Because
Right.
when you're running your own spot, if things fall through the cracks, like the consequences aren't a tough chat with your boss.
Mm.
It is someone doesn't get paid. You're not compliant with something. You lose a customer that is key to you not running out of money very quickly. So that was it for me, man. I developed a process. I think I showed it to you. I use just a Kanban style board.
Right.
I use Trello. You can use
Yeah.
Asana as well. But I've got a very flushed out system that I use for every sales role that I've had since the sale of Fresh Catch. And it's worked really, really. Yeah.
That's awesome. So Fresh Catch, that was the name of the business?
That was the fish business.
Yeah.
So we ran it as like a bootstrapped startup for about a year. Then we
Yeah.
raised some funding, and then in 2.5 years we sold it to a big fishery in New Zealand, and they hired me to run it. So that was a really cool experience.
That's
Within
awesome.
5 years, we went from an idea to actually setting it up. And when I say ruthlessly inexperienced, I mean it. The first day we had 7 orders to pack, so we did the whole pre-launch, everything. It was mostly friends and family. You could order it throughout 6 days of the week. So for the Monday we had 6 deliveries. We packed it, and then once they were all packed, me and my business partner Graham looked at each other and we're like, how do we tell the boxes apart? We hadn't even thought about labels.
Yeah.
So everything with growing that business up to the point where we managed to sell it was learning by identifying a gap that we didn't think about before,
Wow.
like the labels and like figuring it out. And it's not the simplest business to run because you're dealing with 90% of it is operations and logistics, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to get a product that needs to stay within a cool chain from the boat down to the consumer, a whole bunch of stuff that you have to be able to prove that you're doing in order to stay compliant and adhere to health code. So it was the perfect business to sort of force me into a system and a way of working now that carries me through everything. I put a huge part of, like, I love what I'm doing now, and I understand that from like a sales ecosystem, we're definitely not in the simplest area. I've sold digital marketing before. That is a very simple product to sell, and there is no way that I get to doing what I really enjoy doing now without having to suffer through all of the learning that I had to with the business to have the system that carries me through the sales process that we follow now.
Thankfully, we don't have to suffer as much as you did because we can learn from your lessons now as well, hopefully. We'll have our own type of suffering, I guess.
Well, there's no easy what we do. It's very difficult. And look, man, my process works for me. Wouldn't work for everybody. I've tried. I've had friends that have looked at it, and from a distance it looks good, but it's a high touch process, and some people just don't adapt to it. The process is only as good or as strong as your ability to service it. But you don't get 5-10 years down a technical sales career without a process that works for you.
100%.
So that suffering, everybody goes through it, and you end up, the ones that can't adapt and figure out a process behind it are the ones that crack and quit and go do something else. And that's fine. That's cool too. But I don't think there's anyone successful in the space that just 100% wings it. Even the ones that look like they're winging it, they'll have a weird sort of proprietary bespoke process that they follow in the background that works for them, but you can't escape it.
So interesting, because there are so many people that look like they don't have a process, but you have to fall into a process.
It's their own process. My dad is like that. Like, you look at it from a distance, you're like, dude, how? how does he
Yeah,
operate? But then if you start poking and asking, he's like,
it'll make
that's got
sense.
a real slick system in the
Yeah,
background. It's just not as obvious as mine, where I can literally
right.
pull up a screen and be like, this is my life.
Yeah,
Which is a bit of a single point of failure as well.
yeah,
I think I told you, like, if Atlassian falls over, I'm done.
yeah,
That's done.
yeah, yeah,
I'm aware of it. But
yeah,
yeah, if it was to fail tomorrow and I
yeah.
couldn't connect to it, like my next review with Jade would be horrendous. Horrendous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the key things that you just touched on was high touch,
Mm.
right? And it reminds me of something you told me like a few weeks ago. It was around the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of sales is follow up, and you got to water your seeds. So tell me a little bit about that, because that's such a fascinating thing. I think we don't talk about that enough, right? Having a high touch 80-20 rule, watering those seeds. Like, what does
Yeah.
that all mean to
So
you?
that's a good sort of just point to make,
Yeah.
that the whole 80-20 principle, the
Yeah.
whole Pareto thing is not it's not an original Dre thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very well known and
For
studied
sure.
kind of thing. And it's a nice rule to try to apply to a sales process, because it ends up being very true, right?
Yeah.
If you approach, like, the way to implement and try to work backwards from is, you can have high confidence that 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of the input that you put in. So you want to make sure that you're prioritizing the right things. I think another way of saying it is separating the signal from the noise. That ratio as well is very important. What I try to do, and this ties back to the system,
Yeah.
I use I think it's called an Eisenhower
Matrix.
matrix.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've got that built in on my Trello board,
Right.
and everything is linked to whether it's urgent and important, whether it's not urgent but important,
Yeah.
things that I just will give up over time that are not important and not urgent. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm answering the question. But yeah, I think when we spoke, what came out is I use the Pareto principle a lot.
Mm,
Like I told you, that 80% of sales is the follow up. And
correct.
then I think in the same sentence, I said that 80% of sales was something else.
Yeah.
So it's just a framework that I apply to the thinking.
Yeah.
But to sort of tie off the point there, I do stand behind that statement. I
Yeah.
think, especially when you're working in a scale patch, it's very easy to try to get full coverage and kind of take that first point of contact that didn't really work out as a loss and going, nothing there.
Yeah.
From my experience across the multiple different sales roles that I've gotten, you kind of get desensitized to that first experience, because I've sold many things to customers that in the initial call were like, hey, mate, they might be friendly, obviously you got the ones that are like, hey, fuck off, and hang up. Those are tough to follow up with. But a lot of the time it might be not be the right timing. It might be they don't understand enough about the product, but they'll still hit you with the, hey, mate, nah, no interest, no thank you. And if you just have a process that you're going to persist and follow up consistently, in the 12th call over a 14-month period, the dude's now a warm lead, and eventually stars align. I'm a big fan of making sure that you maximize the amount of opportunity that you can get by having as much reach and contact with as many people as you can over time.
And you use systems in order to enable you.
There's nothing that I do that's not tied to a system somewhere, for two reasons. One, I already told you, I had to do that in order to be able to scale a business. And so you get used to it. And two, I need to be able to turn off. Have to. Without a really good system, the amount of stress that I used to have with trying to keep juggling everything is insane. Now I put everything through this task management process. And when I'm off work, I'm off. I'm not stressing about anything. It's captured somewhere. It's all good. So yeah, I don't do, if there's anything that's sitting outside one of my systems or mechanisms to getting things done, I feel like I'm allergic to it, and I
Yeah.
find a way to put it through a process.
Right. And I'll be frank, that's one of the things that I probably need to work on myself. And I think I'm not the only one. I think the fact that you shared that you had been like that and now you learned from that lesson as well is a testament to that.
It's hard not to be when you care, man.
Yeah.
Like when you're trying to be successful,
Yeah,
and
it's
regardless
true.
of what you're doing,
Yeah.
there's a decoupling between what you're doing and how you do it and the level that you do it at.
Right.
Right. I'm a big fan. Like we were having a chat before we started. I'm like, man, I'm a big fan of high standards, regardless of what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think it comes across. It's a bit of an attitude. And like I don't
No,
know.
no, no, don't worry. But you're talking about having high standards. Were you gonna add something?
No, I was
I
trying
was
to
gonna
figure out
say
what that was tied to. Brazilian Jiu
Jiu-
Jitsu. Also a Brazilian black belt.
Yeah.
That fits too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it fits as well. And just to I was gonna tie that back into the fact that, you have high standards for yourself. I find that a lot of people that just on a weird side topic, I find that a lot of people that have played in competitive sports, right, whether that's individually or team, right, have this high standard for them. The new starter that I'm working with at the moment, he's also like a sports kind of a guy as well. I find people like that are so built for this type of work.
Yeah. It's a known thing, man, and I think it links back to resilience.
Yeah.
Sport is probably the earliest thing that you can do. Like, it's very difficult for you to prove or to expose a child to the resilience that you need to be successful in a sales corporate environment. You just can't. I've got a couple of young nephews who don't get to be like, dude, you're going to have to do shit that you don't want to do. You're going to have to deal with people that are difficult to deal with. You're going to have pressure of deadlines and things that need to happen. You're going to have people that are depending on you in order to deliver things. And it's very difficult to sort of start training a child to thrive in that environment. And that's where sports comes in as the best proxy. All of the things that we have to deal with now, if you are doing, whether it is an individual sport or a team sport, you learn to deal with those things early on. So I think it's not by accident. There are a lot of the people that we end up working with throughout our sales career have been battle tested through sports before.
Correct.
And it's not rare for you to find someone that loves the outside view of what a sales role is, with the money and, you just have to have a little bit of a personality and be able to, I'm going to go and do that.
Yeah.
And then you've never been in a high pressure environment
Yeah.
before. You've never been in a high performing team before.
Yeah.
or a high performing environment.
Yeah.
And very quickly, a lot of people learn, like, you know what, this is not worth it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to be fucking
For
all
sure.
the time. I'm just going to go and, do a job I can show up. And
Yeah.
that's it. Got things that I need
That's
to
not
do.
what this is. That's not what this shit. You
Nah.
can't. Firstly, I don't get people like that in life. Personally speaking, like I feel like if you're doing something, you have to like go for it. You know what I mean? Like you can't don't do anything half-hearted. Right?
That's a very good. You've reminded me of what I mean
Yeah.
about the whole.
Yeah.
That's exactly it, man. How you do one thing is how you do everything. I think Elliot mentioned that yesterday. I think that's why it stuck.
Yeah.
And that's so true. And that energy that you bring to whatever. Like I said, I did a short stint selling digital marketing stuff. Very quickly, I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do. It's cool. Money is good, but I think if you get caught up in this attitude of being like, man, I'm not doing what I want, so I'm just going to half-ass it. That's an attitude that ends up creeping into everything that you do. You can't just be ready to show up when you're doing the stuff that you want. And I think that the path that we're both on, and we're both growing professionals.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff that I'm learning throughout the journey. Still, definitely wouldn't say that I'm a black belt in tech sales.
Yeah.
But
Not yet, but yeah.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
on the path, man.
yeah.
I'm doing everything I can, but there are no shortcuts.
Yeah. No.
Right? Lots of high-level people that we work with that I'm constantly reaching out for
Yeah.
help and getting advice, and also am aware of everything that I can offer to the people that are coming up. So I'm not like a dud.
Yeah.
I definitely know where I can help and what my strong areas
Yeah.
are. But it is a high-performing environment.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that attitude of doing everything with a high standard, you get found out quickly, and I
Yeah.
think you don't last.
No. 100%. On that, so one of the things you just mentioned there, I think coming from martial arts world, I think there's always like a level of like humbleness you have to have whenever you walk in a gym. And I think that it's a testament to like your level of competence as well. Like what I mean by that is you know where you fit in terms of the business, what you know and what you don't know. And I think that's one of the key principles, which is going to lead me to one of the other topics, which is around project management and your ability to sort of address when you need help and when to bring in that help. So do you want to tell us a little bit around like how you go about orchestrating these types of, project management deals, how you bring in people, perhaps even share like an experience?
That's another 80%. 80% of sales is the project management side.
That's another one. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So the first point in heavy, like, I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily put it down to being humble enough to put your hand up for recognizing that you need to bring in people. Having said that, I definitely know people that show up with this, hey, I know everything mentality. It never works.
Yeah.
We could have a whole 3-hour conversation on the life skills that have been drilled in me by Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. because you're bang on. The humbling that happens in that space is like nothing else
Yeah,
I've ever done. And I wonder if it translates to the corporate environment. It must, right? Because
without a doubt.
you get that sort of drilled in hard. But I I specifically, I've come into tech from a completely non-technical background. I never studied computer science. Sort of add to that journey. After I sold the fresh catch business and ran it for the fishery for a while, I resigned from Sanford that I was running the business on behalf of. And one of the biggest impacts that the business had was through search engine optimization. Like once we cracked that and we outsourced it to a business, it had a massive impact on the sales. So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do next. And I was like, dude, if I can learn that skill of how to get things ranking on Google, I'm very entrepreneurial. So I was like, that's going to help me moving forward. Ended up in the digital marketing role. I reached out to a guy that ran one of the most successful agencies in SEO in New Zealand. He gave me an opportunity. I was like, dude, I'm just really keen to learn. I'm good at selling shit. So if you just, I'll sell some of your stuff if you teach me how to do this. Very quickly learned that outsourcing that skill is probably the way to go. It's not something that I was like, man, I'm going to master this, but saw how it was done, got enough understanding around it. And then I went to talk to a friend who was working at AWS at the time. And then he started talking me through what the role was, exactly what he did, and fucking the money behind it. And I was like, dude, that's if I'm going to be selling stuff, the sales process is the sales process. I really want to get into tech. And dude, it was hard. Like my first Amazon interview, because the guy was already working in there, so he referred me for a role. I showed up to the first interview and the guy asked me, "Hey Dre," that I saw my CV. He's like, "So you've never done anything in tech?" I was like, "No, but I learned quickly." And he goes, "Can you describe a 3-tier architecture or a 3-tier infrastructure?" No, can't. And he's like, "Dude, I can't. Like, yeah, we can teach you, but there are candidates that have been working in tech businesses and all of this stuff." So it took a year of me just studying every day by myself, doing the little courses to try to get my head around the whole technical sales piece to get into the technical sales side. That whole process was humbling in itself. I'm not coming at, I never showed up going, "Hey, I know exactly what's going on. I know what my strengths are." And I know that lies with, an ability to build really strong relationships, an ability to connect dots where it's kind of hard to see. So I know how to bring like the best people in order to show the stuff.
Right.
And I've never had a problem in front of a customer or like a high level prospect to be very open about, "Hey, this is really not my area, but let me just make sure." I think we've been in one of those situations together before.
Yeah.
So you got to see me having to dance in front of
Yeah,
a very technical
yeah.
meeting. Um, that approach is the only approach that I can implement
Right.
because I feel like trying to do anything else and trying to position myself as an expert in an area that I'm not will just lose trust over time. And I am genuinely very, very good because of the process that I have in the background to orchestrate a multi-dimensional team that's trying to get the same thing. So I've got individual task cards that I have to follow up with different people. I've got my stakeholders all identified. I capture everything that they need to be doing. So most of the stuff that I do literally is just things get automatically populated in the stuff that I have to do. And most of it is just following up through G chats or a quick phone call and be
Yeah.
like, "Hey man, you said you were going to do this thing. Did it get done?" "Shit, I forgot." No problem. That's what I'm here for. But then when you look at it on when all of those different stakeholders compound into getting a single result done, that's where I think the LECO process really tumbles a lot of deals and different things because shit doesn't happen. You lose the momentum that the deal is in. That's I've inherited a couple of deals
Yeah.
that fell over
Right.
because the lack of follow up and the lack
Right.
of being able to tie everything together.
Right.
And that really rarely happens because of the process that I've.
Right.
Yeah.
There's two things I wanted to touch on. The
Okay.
first thing was, I think being in cybersecurity, I think one of the things I've realized only recently was this is one of the first times where whenever, like one of the first industries I worked in, where my customer always knows more than me,
Yep.
and that's such a unique perspective. Normally when you're selling something, I think you normally know more about the product than the customer, and it's about educating the customer.
100%.
But here it's the other way around.
Yeah.
So when you talk about when we've been in that customer interaction, right?
Yeah.
Where, the guy knows way more than us. It's about sometimes just stepping back. How would you say like you address situations like that when the customer knows more, which is most of the case?
Look, I think I try to make the distinction where I'll give you like what I think would be the bad way to do it, and I'll give you the way that I do it.
Yeah.
if we were in that meeting and I had approached, I don't want to say his name, but I
No.
wanted to approach the customer with saying, "Hello, Mr. Customer. My name is Dre. I'm your account executive.
Yeah.
I'm here to make sure that you understand exactly how Cloudflare can have a positive impact in your business." I'm already setting myself up as, oh, okay, so you know more about the stack that I've been using for 6 years as a free user. Okay, let's see. And you're coming in as DE, so you're not a technical, like you're automatically setting yourself up for a test.
Yeah.
How I position my role within those engagements
Mm.
is, hey, I'm over here to make sure that you get the best value out of the platform.
Right.
If it's not my area, I'll tag the right person in. But as long as I'm the best conduit of what your needs are to the internal team, I'll make sure that you have the quickest time to value. And then it doesn't matter what they want to touch on, man. Like I'm very clear. I try to say if I keep getting caught in like technical conversations that I'm unequipped for and I don't have a solution engineer in the room, I'll try to make the point of going like, look, mate, I'm really not technical, but I'll try to make a joke. I over-index on the commercial. So I'll get you the best deal.
Mm.
Like my time to shine will come,
Yeah.
but right now I'm going to need to get help. So let's make sure that I'm documenting all the requirements effectively so that nothing gets lost in translation. And then I just pivot towards making, but I try very quickly to put myself in a position where I feel like the customer's got to test me or, wanting to go down a route that I really can't help.
I'm gonna coin a phrase and tell me if this like aligns with you. Would you say that you identify or perhaps like resonate with like a non-technical trusted advisor? Is that how
Big
you would
time.
identify?
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know the value that I bring to the table, man, in tech, especially, like we are valuable. It's very difficult to be a subject matter expert across every area of the tech that we touch, right? Even Cloudflare's got a more niche. I would say it's a less broad but deeper
Mm.
platform than where I came with AWS, where AWS is so broad. There is zero expectation that one person is going to be able to handle every conversation. And every conversation that I was having with customers were about so many different domains. So that expectation is not even there. You really see the value of someone that can sit above the whole thing and work as a project manager to be like, okay, dude, you've got this really intense requirement around vector databases, and you're also trying to do this thing around like Kubernetes, whatever it might be. It's very rarely that the person that's going to have the technical depth to discuss both of those issues at a high level is the same person.
Yeah.
So the ability that you carry as a salesperson to be that not only that trusted advisor, but an easy piece of the puzzle to deal with.
Yeah.
From the buyer's perspective, none of these platforms are simple. They all try to be. They
Yeah.
want to be. It's self-serve, and you can come in and look, our dev docs are amazing.
Yeah.
But tech is complicated,
Mm.
man. Tech is complex.
Mm.
So the easier that you can be, the easier that you can make you being that sort of one point of contact to make sure that everything gets passed on to the right spots that the information needs to
Yeah.
go. That's I 100% agree with you, Tim. That's where
Yeah.
the non-technical trusted advisor
Yeah.
comes in.
That's where it
Yeah.
comes in.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so funny that you mentioned about your Amazon interview that you didn't have technical background. Like
Zero.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't connect the dots because I didn't realize that because that was your first tech role.
Yeah. I went from selling like those SEO packages
Yeah.
straight
Digital
to like
marketing.
a full AWS patch.
Wow.
Running all of the mid-market businesses in the South Island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long were you at Amazon for?
3 years. Yeah, I had my role changed a couple of times, but
Yeah.
about 3 years all up.
So like now I was gonna ask you anyway, but now I want to know more. Like how did someone without technical experience not only get into Amazon but also stayed there for a number of years as well?
I had some really nice clothes, mate.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
out the gate
Just
fashion sense.
just tell us what brands, you know? So just I'll just quickly just for myself.
I think that whole experience, like I love Amazon. It's such a cool. It's awesome. I know that we compete against them in a few areas now, but
Yeah.
most of the time we're working alongside
Yeah.
AWS to deliver great results for customers. The team that I was joining, like I joined as my role. You can join as a demand gen rep, which is like the first. It's the equivalent to a BDR here. Then you become a cloud sales rep, which was an experiment that Amazon was running. There was an in-between role between a demand generation rep or a BDR and a full-fledged account manager. I don't remember what the experiment was, but they developed this cloud sales center, and it created this opportunity for these like mid-level roles where they wanted people that weren't necessarily You didn't have to have a background in tech, but you just had to have some sort of sales process that you're used to doing. And the experience that I had with running my own business was a big key in what that over indexing that I talked about. Like, cool, I might not be able to understand exactly what a 3-tier infrastructure even is, but man, I've been the buyer. Like, I understand the value of the technology, understand what they're looking for. And I can tell you that very few CEOs are going to care about what a 3-tier
Yeah.
infrastructure does, bro.
Yeah.
Like, they want to understand how you're going to help the operations of the
Yeah.
business run more efficiently, or, how can you optimize
True.
for tech spend costs. And so that whole process, after I got bounced the first time, which was immediately, oh yeah, that's funny. So I made it to my first interview, and then it went terribly. But on the same day, bro, it's unbelievable. I had a friend of mine, completely unrelated. A
Yeah.
friend of mine was going through a real tough time with
Yeah.
the job that she used to be she worked for First Security. I don't care about naming and shaming
Yeah.
those guys. You can
Yeah.
bleep it if you want.
Yeah.
But her role was, she was actually the person that showed up to a house to put the home detention bracelet.
Right.
So after they've been arrested and convicted, she goes up to these insane places like gang houses and everything, and by herself has to put the bracelets on these
Shit.
guys. They have to run around the property for like 2 hours to set up all the perimeters and all this stuff. Super dodgy.
Yeah.
And she had been raising safety concerns with the company and all of the stuff. And it ended up with them trying to fire her. And she brought me in as a mediator for a meeting that she was having with an HR. Again, completely unskilled.
Yeah.
What am I doing there, bro?
Yeah.
But I was like passionately involved. She was a really good friend.
Yeah.
So I showed up to this meeting to
Yeah.
be her mediator. And this was happening literally in like a 15-minute gap between the interview that I needed to have with Amazon, my
Right.
first interview.
Right.
And it ran late. So I'm literally in the room with shit going down, her crying, HR screaming, me going, dude, you're just waiting for someone to die, basically.
Yeah.
Like, how is this legal?
Yeah.
Like, how you guys are set up, this process makes no sense. So my alarm ringing and me going, Paloma, I have to run. Sorry, I've got an interview. So I
Yeah.
jump in my car, in the car park off that mediating thing, to have my the biggest interview that I had today. Wild, bro. So it went terribly.
Yeah.
Horrendous. I'm sweating, not even
Yeah.
trying to. I prepped for the interview,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the whole meeting threw me off completely.
Shit.
So it was a terrible experience to the Amazon ecosystem.
Yeah.
And John Kearney, the guy that interviewed me the first time, he was in the startup team. It was a startup world that I was interviewing for because
Right.
I had run a startup and I had all those
Yeah.
things. And he cut it within like 10 minutes. I was like, thanks, man. Cool, but no thanks. Then I spoke to the guy that had referred me and is like, yeah, dude, most people don't get in the first time. Like, that's normal. But like, now you're in the ecosystem. And if you can prove that you really want it, usually you get in the second time. Most people get in the second time.
Yeah.
Another role came up. I applied. I got bounced quicker than the first time. I make it to the interview. I was like, bro, you said it was easier
Yeah.
the first time.
Yeah.
I've been studying and stuff. Like, I'm better now.
Yeah.
Got bounced immediately.
Wow.
And then I continued hassling all of them. I emailed the country manager at the time,
Yeah.
saying, hey, mate, applied a few times, didn't work out, but would love the opportunity to take you for a coffee. Standard sales shit.
Yeah.
Did the same thing with the head of the enterprise team and just started getting connected. And
Yeah.
then I kept studying. I was like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
I loved the value proposition of the cloud, understood how it worked. The more I studied, I was like, dude, this makes sense. If I knew a bunch of this stuff when I was running Freshcatch, life would have been so much easier.
Yeah.
All of that knowledge, all of that understanding was outsourced to a contractor technical resource.
Right.
And I understood the value of understanding that,
Right.
trusted my ability to be able to sell it.
Yeah.
After, I think it was another 5 months or whatever,
Yeah.
they got in touch with me and they're like, hey, there's this CSC team going. There will be a few roles available. Like, you should apply.
Yeah.
And then I went through the full process. You
Wow.
do like a couple of interviews, and then they have this process called the loop, where you do
Right.
5 back-to-back interviews where they
Right.
try to test their leadership principles and everything. So
Damn.
once you're past that initial first, and this is specifically for the sales role that I went for.
Yeah.
Once you're past that initial basic technical literacy of being like, can we trust that you don't have to know things, but can you trust that you're going to be able to learn it? We have the resources to teach
Yeah.
it to you, but are you switched on enough to learn this? The rest of the interview was very little to do with technical concepts
Right.
and more around real life situations and experiences that I could tie to the list of leadership principles that they have, like
Interesting.
customer obsession, thinking big. I write a lot, I think is
Yeah.
another one. I don't know. I could probably remember all of them.
Do you write? What do you write?
No, no, no. I write a lot. Like
Sorry.
leaders, I write a
Oh,
lot.
yeah,
Is
yeah.
like one of the. It's a really cool way they run the
Okay,
organization.
interesting.
They have this list of leadership principles that you basically can tie any business conversation around to be the North Star.
Mm,
So if we're having a conversation about like a dispute that you and I are having about something to do with like a customer and what the right thing to do is, the number one leadership principle is customer obsession. So it gives you the framework to challenge a leader and go, how's this customer obsessed? Explain to me. Like, I understand what you want me to do. My approach is this one because I feel like it would deliver a better result to the customer. Can you explain to me where the customer obsession is? And the competing value behind it, the last one is deliver results. So that's a value that you got to be able to. So balancing customer obsession and delivering results. It just makes for a very efficient and like it's a framework around these discussions that when you don't have those, it can be challenging. Like I didn't have any guiding principles in the business I was running and it
yeah,
was chaos, man.
yeah,
You had a disagreement with someone that worked in the factory. There wasn't a framework like this
yeah,
to guide discussions.
right,
So it's one of the biggest or sort of yeah, I guess the biggest values that I got from the Amazon business is operating on those principles.
right.
Anyway, bit of a tangent, but yeah, that
No,
was
not at all.
very cool.
Definitely one of the things I wanted to discuss with you, especially considering you didn't have technical experience going in, and it's
Zero,
a
man.
story of resilience as well, if
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. I think a lot of people. I was in a spot where I knew that the effort I was putting into things, right? Sales is tough regardless of what you do.
Yeah,
My recruitment role was tough too.
yeah,
I've never been in an easy sales
yeah,
role. And if you're going to be squeezed that hard, you want to make sure that you maximize the benefits that you're getting. I've had days where I had to work a lot harder selling digital marketing, deals falling over, all of the stuff. And I was getting paid, dude, a quarter of what you can make in a tech role. So I don't think it's a rare jump to want to make. If someone is working in a separate field or a separate industry and they identify tech sales as something that they want to get into, I wonder if this shit that you and I don't even know about, that like differences like commercial property maybe is something that we'd have to work as hard, but it would be another like step up. And I don't know, out of everything that I've been exposed to, this is the swim lane to be in
right,
with the skills that we've got. I'm open to a next jump. If
yeah,
something comes in and I'm like, dude, all I got to do is like a year of studying and then
yeah,
I can start selling that and now I can make this.
yeah,
Wow. Haven't seen anything. I
yeah,
genuinely love the tech, like tech is fun. A lot of people are nerdy,
yeah,
but what technology enable, like translating technology into business value is nuts,
yeah,
and it's the engine behind like every business
yeah,
now. It's okay. So I have passion for it, and I agree with you. I think a lot of people might get disheartened and be like, dude, I didn't study computer science.
yeah,
I don't understand any of this
yeah,
technical shit. So maybe there's my use case kind of should give people confidence that it's like, dude, the jump is if you're willing to sacrifice the time to just be, I was doing 20 minutes a day, like
yeah,
consistently. If you want the process that I applied
yeah,
in order to get in,
yeah,
I had my day job that I needed to do. It's stressful this far, sales always. But I had a calendar appointment 7 days a week for 20 minutes because it's a very low barrier, 20 minutes. But
yeah,
you're not looking at it going, fuck, I got to study for 2 hours.
yeah,
But I did it every day,
yeah,
every day. Yeah. And my girlfriend's house, it was, there were many lockdowns throughout that.
yeah,
It kind of matches as well. And she had a high pressure job and everything, but my alarm would go off. I'd pull it up, I paid for a cloud group
right,
subscription. And they had like the cloud practitioner
yeah,
stuff, and I had a little book and 20 minutes a day. Sometimes they're inspired, so you go a little bit longer. But there were days that I didn't want to start. So like the 20-minute alarm would go off and I'm like, fuck,
fuck,
done. Oh,
yeah,
yeah, man. Over time, like after 9 months,
yeah,
those 20 minutes compound.
of course,
And then next time I got asked a entry level sort of technical literacy question, I was like, oh, fuck, I actually know this one.
yeah,
Crazy. Yeah. So yeah, in hindsight, how the reality of doing it and how I felt like it was going to be,
yeah,
it was there's a big delta there. It's not as hard as you might think before you get started.
right, right. I think that's reassuring for a lot of people that want to jump in the industry as well, that don't have that technical background, don't have that degree, right? So I think you give a lot of people, including myself, like a lot of like reassurance, like don't stress.
Yeah, man. And again, what you said is important. Yeah, it helped. If I was a black belt in tech,
Yeah,
speak and
yeah,
understanding, it wouldn't hurt my sales process. or like the deals that I'm working in. Definitely. I'm on a forever growing journey of trying to understand as many of the technical concepts as I can.
Yeah.
But don't devalue the non-technical brilliance that you can bring to a technical sales process.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that don't rely on some, exactly how is this technology implemented from a hands-on keyboard point of view, from being able to build a really good business case of why that technology needs to be implemented in the first place.
Right.
Those are two separate things.
Yeah.
And yeah, it wasn't until I jumped into the technical sales side that I respected the actual skill of selling things. A funny story, when I got into Amazon, I was like, oh, fantastic. This is great. Finally got in. All this learning, you're doing all this. So they're very well set up to support. So is Cloudflare.
Yeah.
Like the amount of learning resources that we
For
have is
sure.
insane. Once I got in and I started figuring out, okay, so what do I want my 2, 3, 5 year plan to be? I was dead set that I wanted to become a solution architect.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, if I'm getting paid this much, those like smart dudes must be on crazy money.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start like figuring out a plan to go. And there was one guy that I met that did the opposite. He was a solution architect
Yeah.
and he jumped into a sales.
Yeah.
So I pulled him into a meeting and I was like, Punesh, man, awesome that you're jumping into sales. That's really, really cool. I've been selling stuff for a while. So if there's anything that I can do from a sales perspective, let me know. I'm more than happy to help. I'm kind of keen to go the other way around. Like I want to get into the big boys table and I want to go from like a sales guy to like the technical dude that understands things.
Right.
And he's like, dude, why? Like we get paid less.
Yeah.
Like says you're not, and I was like, what? You're way more useful. What are you talking about? You don't value how much a sensible, non-like, hey man, my way of doing these things work and it's better than what you're proposing and they have data behind it and it's everything. I had multiple experiences at Amazon where my specialist solution engineer was having like an inappropriate level argument discussion with CTOs because they knew they were right about the approach that they were taking. There's 1,000 ways to do things in tech and they didn't have the nuance to be like, dude, this is not how we progress. I'm not saying you're wrong, but it's not an attack on your knowledge. Him disagreeing. We have to take him on the journey. And then I learned the value of being the person in the room that it's like, okay, I'm not taking anything personally. I'll make sure that the client feels like they're right the whole time. You kind of take them on the journey. A great example, and you don't have to bleep this out because I love him. He's just moved to Databricks now. His name is Casey Orr. He was a solution architect at Amazon, very experienced, super switched on, deep in the spectrum. Oh my God. And it was one of my favorite solution architects. So my favorite. We used to be the dream team. And he would come in and we worked so well together. He wouldn't be offended by me saying that he was on the spectrum. He's just got this way of doing things and it's like how his brain works. But we complemented each other very, very, very well. Like in customer engagements and everything, it was a really good partnership of being able to, me sort of keeping things and like keeping us focused on the business value that we're trying to deliver. And Casey just hammering in like technical truths that sometimes can land inappropriate. Like you go into especially if you're not dealing with an enterprise, you go into a mid-sized businesses that are used to dealing stuff the way that they do. And they have one technical resource that's been looking after everything. You're going to find gaps. You're going to find things that have done in not the most optimal way and everything. And there is a big difference. You're still saying the same thing, but there's a big difference between like a very high level technical resource jumping into that meeting and going, fuck, what is that? Who did this? Why would anyone set it up? This is so stupid. This is being, why you've got, oh my God, look at this, the redundancy everywhere and all this stuff. Then being able to go, look, mate, this is a great starting point. That's great. There's loads of things that we can do to optimize and we'll help you all those stuff. Like bridging that gap is where that partnership between a non-technical understanding and being very technically gifted works out. Don't know if that's a good way of articulating it.
I think one of the things that you perfectly segued into like the final real topic, which was, balancing the human side and the technical side. One of the things you mentioned when we spoke was being a trusted problem solver for your customers. Do you want to sort of help like explain like what you mean by that?
Yeah, man, this is probably one of those things that I feel like tied to that attitude of I want to do everything at a high standard. There are so many things that you're going to uncover throughout this technical sales process that we go to that don't fit directly into how we get paid, right? You're there to discuss a specific thing, but throughout the conversation, problems are raised that, to put it sort of bluntly, it's not our job to solve. it's not going to help us in the long run. It doesn't necessarily immediately tie to a commercial result to the business that employs us. But I have an attitude of everything that I can, when you talk about connecting dots, every problem that comes up, whether it sits within the deal structure that I'm discussing with this customer or what the opportunity is with the business or not, I take ownership of that problem. I feel like it's a rule with the universe. If the problem came in my radar and I can influence in any way, I'm going to do, whether it is connecting them with just a personal contact that I have that has had an experience with dealing it before, or whether it is pulling someone from another team or from a different, I just thinking taking ownership of every problem just creates this brand that you are a trusted problem solver. And it ends up, I don't do it because I want to be Jesus. Like,
Yeah.
fuck. At the end of the day, even though it doesn't have an immediate commercial benefit to the business that you're working for, it very often becomes something that, or is a conduit
Right.
to attracting problems that do
Yeah.
result in a commercial benefit for the business. It carries through every other role that you're going to do, man. I think carrying this approach out from the time that I was working in recruitment, like, man, I'm here to position someone in your IT team or whatever. I did a few desks, but you need an electrician to yeah, the guy came to my house. I'll go. You need a car loan?
Yeah.
Dude, my friend knows a guy that has got a cousin. Like, it'll help. I'll connect you,
Yeah.
whatever. Feeling that you leave with the person that's buying it stays in
Yeah.
every role. I've successfully sold to the same businesses across many different roles that I've had. A good example of that is great to be able to give them a shout out every time there is a camera on. Urgent Couriers in New Zealand. Phenomenal business. When we were running Fresh Catch, we had a really tough, one of the hardest problems to solve was the delivery piece because we were outsourcing it. As soon as we hit our level of scale where I wasn't delivering it myself anymore, and we went with this business called Fastway, and they were fucking terrible. Terrible. They were missing 25% of deliveries.
Mm.
We had it in their contract that they wouldn't reimburse us for lost delivery. It's Fresh Fish was terrible. And then Urgent Couriers came in, and dude, they took ownership of the problem. That's a good example of it coming from another place. They're
Yeah.
like, dude, you guys are a small company. It doesn't make commercial sense for us now, but we're going to do everything that we can in order to help you grow. And dude, they solved it up to the point where we sold to Sanford, and then we became a nice account for them
Wow.
over time because of the scale. But like Dane from Urgent was a trusted problem solver that I had. In every opportunity that I've had to return the favor, when I was working in the digital marketing spot, I gave him a call and I was like, dude, I'm working in this. This is the value that it does. And I will lose money on the deal so you get a better result. Because he was a trusted problem solver.
Yeah.
It was something that he needed. So we did a deal. Once I got into Amazon, he had a massive technical requirement that was going in. I jumped on it. The account was sitting with a different rep, and I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. You can't have this account. I know it's been with you for 2 years. You haven't done anything. I owe these guys. Give it to me. We did a deal through Amazon.
Wow.
And then I moved on to an advanced tier partner from Amazon. We did business together, connected them, and I explained to the CEO, dude, these guys. So it benefited me because through multiple different businesses, I had an opportunity to solve it. He wouldn't have come to me if he didn't see me as a problem solver. And there were lots of different problems.
Right.
And that example is good because it goes both ways. Like every opportunity that I've had to highlight how amazing that business is, I have. And hopefully it's resulted in like a dollar value to them. They must have gotten a customer from all the word that I've put out.
Bro, what a crazy story. I've never heard like this is the first time I'm hearing where you jump across multiple businesses and
That's
vice versa as well across multiple.
it's one example. That's
Yeah.
happened a few times. A few times.
Wow.
It's not always that the same sort of company has the same need.
Yeah.
Right? You're not always going to be selling things that are so transferable to
Yeah.
different businesses. But I don't have anyone across that became like a big tier customer across anything that I've sold that we don't have a fantastic relationship still. And that we still have conversations around things that have nothing to do with the role. Like Amazon is probably the best example of that so far. So many of my AWS customers now that I have left, I'm still in touch with. And
Yeah.
I got a call with one today. No idea what it's about.
Yeah.
Very unlikely that's going to be anything to do with like Cloudflare stuff.
Yeah.
But I guarantee he's going to be like, dude, this is what we're working on. I'm trying to do, like, do you know anyone? Have someone in my network that I'll be like, hey, here you go, man.
Yeah.
I'll connect you over email. See you later. Yeah.
Being a problem solver, but not even out of self-interest, just you're in their interest.
Is dull. It is self-interest because it over time
Yeah,
it's very valuable to be that person.
right,
And I enjoy the feeling that comes with solving a problem on
right.
behalf of somebody
Yeah,
else. Right, that feels
same
good. It's
here,
like I'm
yeah,
delivering a result. That's
that's
nice. I'm
true.
valuable,
Yeah,
even though I'm not getting anything
yeah,
from it. But it does. I wonder. Like, it's nice to try and position it as like a non-self-serving thing,
for sure.
but I'd be lying if it didn't
Yeah,
serve me in the
yeah,
long. So it's win-win-win across the board. Yeah,
absolutely.
that's a good thing. It's a good way to be.
For sure. Dre, thank you so much for joining us today.
Easy, man.
I'm super appreciative. You were one of the first guys that was like, "Yeah, I'm down." Super supportive, like throughout. And I always really appreciate your support as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Um, like from the day one, you've always been like, I feel like you've always had my back a little bit. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Which I really appreciate in the sense that you want me to like get better because I want to get better as well. You know?
yeah, man. I think it's a nice sort of closing remark,
Yeah,
and it serendipitously really ties to what we just finished talking about like, cool, it's nice to be a problem solver, but it's ultimately self-serving. It's kind of the same, man.
yeah,
You are a very high level operator.
yeah,
Like, you are. I know that you're just starting out, and this is new to you. But as again, I wouldn't call myself a black belt in the field. But in sales, sales as a discipline, I'm pretty close, pretty close. Not in the technical stuff, and it's very easy to identify the people that are going to be killers, right? From a work ethic and a way of operating and everything. And you, in a very short amount of time, came across as someone that is going to be really, really, really strong and effective at the sales thing. So I try to help everybody, but it's a really good opportunity for someone like me to, while you still need help and the support, to put my hand up, because I guarantee the better I can serve you right now, you're going to be a ridiculously valuable contact in 10 years' time. I have no doubt of that. So it's kind of cool this is the same thing. Like, honestly, it doesn't change anything. If you decide that you're going to quit, or if you win the lottery tomorrow, in this investment of time that I'm putting in to be
yeah,
as helpful as well, that I enjoy working with you.
yeah,
It's awesome.
yeah,
But there's always a potential, or a high chance that any help you need now, I'm going to go out of my way to
yeah,
give, because I know that it's going to be force multiplied in how successful you're going to be. And I think this is how you grow in business, man.
yeah.
Yeah, you are a fantastic opportunity right now. It's a
No,
weird
I
way of
appreciate
looking
it.
at
No,
it.
no, no.
It's a weird way of
I
looking at
appreciate
it,
your transparency
but
on it.
it's
Yeah.
it's. I
Most
think
people
it's
are not
nice,
that transparent, at least. At least you are. Yeah.
dude. It's cool. And again, with I don't want it to come across as like an expectation thing, right?
No,
There's
not
never
at all.
anything attached,
Not
and I
yeah.
think with most people in my experience that you try to do everything for. There's a cool segue in jiu-jitsu. This happens a lot, but
Yeah.
it drives my brother into. My brother's a black belt as well, and he
Yeah, right.
coaches. He's
Yeah, that's so
flat
cool.
out. And the amount of time that he spent with like promising white belts that quit along the way, they get their blue belt and they disappear, and it's like, dude, he could have been a champion,
Yeah.
could have been one of my. And but you learn throughout time to just
Yeah.
be like, dude, it's really high level operators early on become a really good opportunity to become strong members of your network
Yeah.
later. And it's a weird way of giving you props, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've impressed a lot of people
I
in a
appreciate
short
that.
time, and
Thank you.
you're a gangster.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you
straight
so
up.
much. I appreciate that.